Okay, YouTube, bear with me here. I almost never post videos of anything. In fact, I've never posted a video on YouTube, I don't think. We'll have to see when I go to upload this. I'm going to try to make this quick, but I'm just going to go over some of the issues that I've run into installing a body lift on this. Now, this tracker is a 98 tracker. We bought it in Idaho. We think it spent most of its time in Arizona. So it doesn't have a lot of rust, but it does have some rust. From what I've read on the internet, some of the problems that I've run into are very common. And in my case, some of them I couldn't find anything. So I watched a video of doing a body lift on this. Now, keep in mind, I've done body lifts before. Obviously not on a stud body mount like this. I had a Jeep, did body lifts on that, really simple, was able to do it with a jack from one side to the other because I was only raising it an inch and I didn't have to go way over what the actual body lift size was, which I'll explain here. So the first thing that you need to know is if this thing has seen any corrosive weather, any of the small bolts and screws that hold on the bumpers and the gas filler neck there, the mud flaps, any of those bolts are tiny and have more than likely been in there and never come out before, and they are going to be stuck in there, and a majority of them are just going to break right off. So accept that right away, that you're gonna have a bunch of sheared off body bolts unless you soak with WD-40 for a little bit in advance. It did that and it didn't really seem to help. Busted off a bunch of them. Okay, so the next thing is the front two body mount locations, which are on the radiator support right here. Let's see if I can get a better shot. You can see that. Okay, that is a welded nut on the bottom and a bolt that drops down through the top of the radiator support. Now, those two bolts are more than likely going to shear off. And the reason that is because there are threads there. There's also a bushing and a bolt that will pass through a piece of rubber. A lot of water obviously hits this portion of the vehicle, goes down inside there somehow, and then rots and almost welds the bushing to the bolt and seizes the nut. So I sheared off this left one. I was somehow able to get this right one out, so that was good. I sheared it off and had to drill out the remaining bit. The threads are a little damaged, but we're going to go ahead and throw it together. We might just throw a second nut on the backside if we have issues when we go to tighten it all down. So just know that you're going to probably run into an issue with one of these two bolts. Again, this is a common problem I've seen on some of the forums for these vehicles, and so I'm not the only one that's had that issue. Okay, the second thing related to the body mounts is you need to really go through and check the undercarriage of the vehicle. Like I said, this is a body that has studs rather than nuts and bolts. And what I mean by that is there is a stud welded up in here, and you'll get a good visual on that in just a second. The stud passes down through the body bushing, and there is a bushing, washer, and a nut. Okay, if this is rotted out, now we have a relatively clean one here, but the backs are a little rotted out, you'll see. If this is rotted out, you may end up running into trouble where that stud breaks off, bends, shears, does something, because if that's rotted out, chances are that you're going to have lots of rust right here, and yeah, you're not going to just be cutting that off because that is a stud. Now, you can cut it off, and I'll show you how we did that here in a second and how we're going to fix this, but here is the rear just in front of the rear tire. Now here is the corrosion. Now this is really good. Okay, so this is not bad, as bad as I've seen, but you can see here you've got flaky rust, large flaky rust, and if it's really bad, that stud will go ahead and just shear off. This can all fall apart. I don't know why. This is the first tracker I've ever worked on, so I don't know why this area is so bad. It looks like there's probably not any drainage, and water probably sits back in here or something. So we're probably gonna get in here and spray this stuff with oil or boiled linseed oil or something, just to keep the rot from getting any worse up in these holes. And yeah. Okay, the rear, which is right here on the very back, not terrible either. There wasn't a lot of rust on this one, so I didn't have any issues. These nuts all came off really easy for me, but you just need to be aware that if you do have rust under your undercarriage, you may want to make sure that those nuts will come off easy before you go and attempt the body lift or buy a body lift, because if those nuts don't come off easy enough, then you're breaking stuff and you're going to be in over your head if you think you're just going to swap this over in 2 hours like I did. All right, on to the next thing. The instructions that I got here for this kit off of eBay for $100 were helpful for the most part. It does say in here that you should carefully raise the body by the pinch welds, work slowly and in stages, taking care that the body gets raised evenly, consistently check there are no clearance issues, that wire's not binding. Okay, that's really important. You have to raise this vehicle body evenly, and it's kind of tricky to do that. Obviously, we don't have a 4-post lift in here, and I tried to do it side to side. So I attempted to do this side first, install the pucks, then come to this side, jack it up, and install the pucks. Now, what ended up happening to me doing that, because I was going side to side, and you have to lift this side, has to go up almost 5 inches to come down 2 inches, because you have to be able to clear the body lift spacer under the stud, slide it up, and then you can lower the body back down. So it really, I mean, when this thing was jacked up, it was like this, and it was gnarly, and they're like this clearance right here, I have a bunch of stuff unhooked. This was almost all the way over here. I really had to keep an eye out for things stretching. Yeah, you must raise this thing all at the same time, straight up. Now, when you do that, you really need to check under the hood and make sure that nothing's binding. Also, there's some brake line stuff that I'll show you real quick that you should do. I did want to say that the low range off-road kit, I downloaded their PDF instructions. It is very thorough, and that is the one I would follow, minus their recommendation of trying to lift one side of the body at a time, because that did not work out well for us. Okay, now the next thing, the $99 body lift kit that we ordered off of eBay looked great, and like I said, first GEO tracker, I didn't really get under here and check things out before I ordered the body lift. My brother and I, we watched a clip together, and we said, okay, that's easy enough, we can knock that out. So I told him to order this kit, ordered this kit, it said it fits the vehicle, great, cool, shows up, got these cool aluminum spacers in here, some of the hardware, which all it came with was these extension kind of coupling nuts, and so that's it. So I got like 8 of those coupling nuts, 10 spacers, and that's it. That's all that was in the kit. Oh, sorry, the 2 front bolts for the radiator support. So the problem with this kit is this spacer is only 2 inches, okay? The GEO tracker, the factory bushing, is 3 inches. All right, so you can see that when you lift the body 2 inches and you set it on this little tiny puck, especially if you have a rusted out body mount location, this is going to eventually probably dent up into the floor if you do any off-roading, because there's just not sufficient support. Whereas the wider base, this is going to be the same as the factory size, which is, right, there's the factory bushing, 3 inches, 3 inches. Oh, hang on. There you go. See, I want to keep that size as close to possible, or close to the same as possible. It's really important to make sure that your body has good support if you're going to do any off-roading. Okay. So really important, make sure whatever kit you buy has the 3-inch spacers. Okay. On to the next issue. So we chose to only do a 2-inch body lift and a 2-inch suspension lift because it was understood by the video we watched and a couple forums that there was going to be minimal modifications needed to be done to this vehicle. One of those things that I didn't want to deal with was trying to open up and extend shifters and do all that crap. So you do have to modify the shifters a little bit. And for instance, on the gear shifter on a manual transmission, I had to notch this out here, which I thought was going to get it until I installed the center console back in and realized that the center console also contacts the shifter. So the new plan is we are going to cut the shifter and re-weld it with a extension to either raise it up or we will heat it up and bend it. We're not sure yet. We're just trying to get the body lift done for now. Also, the transfer case shifter lever does contact the center console. So you will need to modify the shifter. Now, I don't know why people said you don't. Maybe that's just the little 2 doors that you don't need to do that with. But in our situation, both shifters need to be modified to work with the 2-inch body lift. Okay, like I said, low range off-road has decent instructions. In fact, I would buy their kit. Had I known about their kit beforehand, we would have just bought that from the get-go. It is priced really good and comes with everything you need. So for instance, this kit didn't come with the glue-in body mounts. Now there's 4 locations on this vehicle where there are these glue-on pucks that contact the frame. Okay, this kit that we had purchased on eBay did not come with any pucks to place in here. So there's one at the rear tire, okay, right above the coil there. And there's another one right here about mid-frame. You can see that, okay. Low range comes with a glue-on spacer. Now, the way we're going to address this is we're going to put a piece of 2-inch square tubing on top of the frame rail, and then there will be a flat stock welded to the 2-inch tube steel, and then it'll just get a self-tapper into the frame. So it'll be mechanically mounted rather than the glue. Just don't trust the glue, and it'll be solid with this bushing. So solid to the frame, bushing between the body. So that's how we're going to achieve that instead of gluing. Okay. Last thing here, you need to make sure that that steering wheel is unlocked when you start jacking up this body. It will bind down in there as you move things up. So if that's not unlocked, as you raise it, it will want to turn, and you need to allow it to do that. So make sure the key is in and the steering wheel can turn freely. Like I said, again, one more time, I'm just going to reiterate. The low range off-road instructions was very detailed in what all needed to be taken apart and undone in the engine bay before you raise the body. Because there's a lot of things that were not mentioned in the kit that I bought that really helped. For instance, like taking the air cleaner off. I took it off different from the oil range instructions. But that, the coolant reservoir, some of these vacuum tubes and stuff that they know are going to stretch, the firewall main harness locations that need to be unclipped. There is a brake line manifold right here that has 2 bolts that needs to be unbolted from the frame. And you will have to bend the hard lines slightly to allow that have enough room to move up. So definitely make sure you read the instructions first. Another thing we ran into issues with, which you won't run into issues with if you do it correctly, going side to side, we also had the towers right here. This has a lip on it. It got caught on here and caused all kinds of bind-up issues, and kind of jacked that metal around. It's not terrible, actually, but we did have bind-up issues there. So the solution that we come up with after all this pain and headache to raise the body evenly was to buy 4 cheap bottle jacks from Harbor Freight and slowly go around the vehicle and lift it, you know, a little bit at a time. A spot that seems to work really well for lifting these is actually, believe it or not, right here. There's where all the body panels come together. I don't know if this is the actual jack location, but this is pretty solid here. We've jacked from here, which is at the rear tire, and same location on the front with no issues. So 4 bottle lifts in those positions, slowly raising the vehicle all at once from both sides. Like I said, you're going to have to go up about 5 inches to clear the body spacer pucks. Okay, now the reason you need to do that, this is the last and final issue that we are working on right now. And boy, this has been a nightmare, but it is fixable. If you jack this up side to side, you'll notice that there's a stud missing there. There's a little tab on the side of the body perch, the body mount perch there that welds to the frame. Well, when you jack this up from the side, this tab here contacts the body mount location, and there is a stud and a plate welded in here. If you put enough pressure from the other side on this body and get the weight on this point right here, it will dent. Let's see if you can see that. It will dent this cross member portion here on the body, and it will tweak the stud. Now, I've cut this one out, and we figured out a way to address this problem. We tried a come along and to pull the stud back, and that did not work. I was worried we were going to break more stuff doing that. We tried heat in the come along. That did not work. So eventually we decided to come in here, and we got into the floor pan, and we opened it up, and you can see here, sorry, all the shavings and stuff. There's kind of a sandwich going on here, and everything's spot welded together. You've got the support that was, sorry, the cross member support or body cross member support right here. And then there's a about 3/16, sorry, probably less than that, maybe an 1/8. Oh, yeah, about, no, 16th maybe. It's all sandwiched together to equal whatever that thickness is there. It's looking like 1/4 inch. It's thick. It's all stacked together, gives you a nice thick body pad location for everything to sit on. So I cut the stud off that was bent, and I have one that is still bent to do, and I'm going to show you. Cut that off, and on the top of this stud here, there was a center mark, which was great because I used my center punch tool and we drilled this out slowly, going from smaller sizes to larger sizes. And we are going to go ahead and do a nut and a bolt. The nut will be welded to this. We have to get it nut and bolted together to get it to the welder. But once we get it to the welder, we'll pull back the carpet. This will all be cleaned up. We'll be able to tack the nut in a couple places and get some really good penetration there. And then in the future, if this ever is an issue again, hopefully we're never taking this body off again, but you never know. If that breaks free or whatever, you can come under here and get a wrench on this side if those tacks break off. So let me show you the bent stud. Okay, so that is the bent body stud. You cannot see it because I have the body lift on there, but you can see that the spacer is not contacting the cross member, the body cross member, whatever the technical term for that is, on that side. However, it is contacting here. And when you do look at it, I mean, you can tell it's crooked. So now that, like I said, is from jacking it up from side to side. And that all has to do with, you can see this mark here, right here. There's a little groove. Okay, that's from that right there. Running the jack on the other side, all the way to the body, comes right to that point, kinks this metal up, bends the stud over, and you're screwed. So, like I said, we've come up with a solution to fix that. I'm sure that you could do the same thing if you run into issues with any of these. I'm sure that you can access them from, for instance, this one here can more than likely be accessed by cutting a hole. Now you'll have to take the carpet out for this, but I'm sure you